In May 2026, the United Kingdom and India formally activate the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. This treaty represents a systematic reorientation of British trade policy, targeting the historically fortified barriers of the world's fastest-growing major economy. India's current growth trajectory has made it the primary destination for this post-Brexit strategy, shifting the focus toward a market that now leads all other major economies in annual expansion. This dashboard synthesizes the long-run projections. Modeling suggests a £4.8 billion annual uplift to UK GDP, supported by a £25.5 billion increase in bilateral trade. Underlying drivers include £900 million in duty savings, driving a 60%. Realizing this £4.8 billion in value requires market participants to navigate a framework of phased quotas, regulatory alignment, and rigorous compliance standards designed to engineer market entry over the next decade. The immediate efficiency of the treaty is defined by its hit rate, the specific percentage of existing trade that qualifies for new preferential terms on day one. This block represents India's 2022 goods imports from the UK. The agreement targets 92% of this volume. At entry into force, 64% of tariff lines drop to zero, effectively erasing the fiscal border immediately. This provides an immediate lift to industrial sectors like chemicals and plastics, which are projected to see £527 million in growth as barriers are removed. Advanced manufacturing sees similar day-one gains, including the total elimination of the 11% tariff historically applied to aerospace turbojets. By prioritizing these day-one eliminations for industrial inputs, the framework secures immediate capital advantage for UK exporters before the more complex phased transitions begin. For sectors with sensitive domestic manufacturing bases, the treaty avoids the industrial shock of a sudden move to zero tariffs. India's automotive sector has historically operated behind a 110% tariff on completely built internal combustion units. The agreement dismantles this barrier through a structured tariff rate quota system, which allows a specific volume of vehicles to enter at reduced rates. This 5-year staging process begins with 20,000 units at a 50% tariff, expanding to 37,000 units at 10% by year 5. The year 1 benefit concentrates in high-value segments, petrol engines over 3,000 cc and diesels over 2,500 cc, moving to 50% immediately. In the electric and hybrid vehicle sector, the liberalization follows a different, asymmetric logic. This timeline tracks the imbalance in market access. Indian manufacturers gain immediate zero-tariff access to the UK for over 17,000 mass-market EVs. Conversely, the UK's quota into India remains inactive until 2031. Delaying the UK's access to 2031 allows India's charging infrastructure to mature, while the UK manages its own domestic transition to zero-emission vehicles. This asymmetric structure functions as a strategic shield, preserving margins for British luxury markets until the target market is ready for high-end adoption. India is the world's largest whiskey market by volume, yet British distillers have faced a federal tariff of 150%. The treaty schedules a phased reduction of this fiscal wall. The tariff on premium spirits drops to 75% at the point of entry and will continue to fall until it reaches 40% in 2035. These tariff reductions are only effective if the brand's intellectual property is protected from local imitation. To address this, the agreement legally enshrines Scotch whisky as a protected geographical indication. This provision provides the legal basis to prevent brand dilution and combat the sale of local molasses-based spirits under the Scotch name. Even with these protections, exporters must still navigate complex state-level excise and labeling regulations that vary across India. A dedicated subcommittee on wine and spirits acts as the strategic link, resolving local administrative frictions before they neutralize the federal tariff gains. Moving beyond the trade of physical goods, the treaty addresses the institutional integration of capital and professional services. For financial services, the agreement locks in a 74% foreign direct investment allowance, ensuring UK banking and insurance firms operate on an equal footing with domestic entities. British firms gain unprecedented access to India's £38 billion central government procurement market. Meeting a 20% origin rule grants UK businesses Class 2 local supplier status. This status permits British firms to bid for approximately 40,000 annual tenders within the Make in India framework, specifically in transport and green energy infrastructure. Executing these large-scale public tenders depends on the efficient deployment of a skilled professional workforce. The Double Contribution Convention provides financial relief by exempting workers from redundant Social Security payments. For assignments lasting up to 36 months, this mechanism generates £500 million in annual operational savings for British firms. The institutional framework operates in tandem. Treaty law opens the £38 billion procurement market, while the convention lowers the overhead required to service it. Every fiscal advantage discussed, from the automotive quotas to the procurement access, is dependent on a single operational gateway. The Rules of Origin framework is the final arbiter of whether a product qualifies for preferential treatment under the agreement. This schematic outlines technical requirements. To clear this gate, goods must prove a qualifying value content of 35 to 45%. The process is simplified through bilateral cumulation, allowing manufacturers to count Indian inputs as originating materials. This resource pooling authorizes shipment for preferential rates. Despite these technical efficiencies, certain risks remain. The exclusion of legal services from the agreement limits the ability of British law firms to support international commercial arbitration in the region. Furthermore, the potential for India to deploy quality control orders acts as a persistent non-tariff barrier that could throttle the projected gains in advanced manufacturing. Ultimately, the agreement establishes a clear, treaty-backed framework for the UK to engage with India's industrial expansion. Realizing the projected £4.8 billion GDP growth requires capital patience for decade-long staging timelines and a rigorous approach to supply chain compliance.